We don't need to take much of your time today. We chatted yesterday afternoon. We just wanted to make ourselves available in case folks had questions. Given that we're not at the state capitol to run into you in the press room. We had some negotiations this morning from 9 to 12:30. We talked about a number of the blockers that are still preventing a deal. I do think that we're making progress. I tend to be a glass half full kind of person, and I think the progress that we're making on issues is substantial. I think there was one respect where there could be quite a bit of movement on the Republican side there, and in exchange, there would be quite a bit of movement on the Democratic side on a different issue. And we have narrowed the issues a bit as we're negotiating, actually pretty substantially. So I think we're making progress. Failure is not an option. So we'll keep meeting until we have an agreement and we can get going. And my hope it remains that that would happen this week.
I'll just add that we had heard just an hour or so ago the press conference from Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison. And today's reckless and harmful federal funding pause by the Trump administration shows why it is important for us all to get back to the Capitol. We could be having hearings with the GOP on the impact that this will be having on public safety, on veterans, on schools, on healthcare. There are real needs that we could be addressing together once the GOP agrees to respect the will of Shakopee voters and the will of Minnesota voters in sending a tie to the Minnesota House. And as a reminder, we're only here because the GOP chose to seize power unconstitutionally and illegally rather than work with the Democrats on co-governing. And with that, we'll open it for questions.
If there are any. We know you have bigger federal news to cover today.
Hi, this is Caroline. Caroline Cummings, the WCCO. Can you hear me okay? I never know how to use Zoom on my phone, and we've been using Zoom for 5 years. Can you expand further on, to the extent that you can, what you see as a break in negotiations that could put this deal together maybe as soon as this week?
You know, I think to respect the integrity of the negotiating space, I'm going to leave out the details. I would say that negotiating this agreement between the House GOP and the House DFL is far less complicated than resolving the state budget, and we're going to have to do that. So I think that we're getting a good pattern of exchanging offers and communicating in negotiations that I think is going to serve us well later on, but I'd rather not go into the specifics.
Does the federal stuff hasten an agreement, or are they two separate things?
Well, I think they're very separate. You know, we really should have the chance to talk together about the impact on Minnesota, because we're looking at potentially $1.9 billion a month. So certainly independently, Democrats are looking into this with administration officials and nonpartisan staff and our, federal counterparts. And Republicans, I'm sure, are doing that separately. It would be nice if we could get a governing agreement so we could do that together. I think a lot of what is happening, though, on the federal level is unclear. And so we'll be taking our guidance from the executive branch as they seek more information from the federal government.
Not seeing any questions in the chat, so I think we can.
Hey, sorry, Ted.
Oh, no, go ahead, Dana.
This is Dana Ferguson with NPR. Just wondering if you can follow up on Leader Demuth today, saying that there really hasn't been a lot of traction. We're hearing different messages from the two of you, and I'm just wondering if you can square, what are we not seeing behind the scenes as far as what's going on?
Well, I tend to be a more optimistic person than pessimistic. I think that we have both moved quite a bit from our initial positions. We've both moved substantially in this round of negotiations. And, it's usually darkest before the dawn. We certainly had some dark moments over the weekend, that we had some dark moments over the first couple weeks of session. And I'm sure it'll get darker again before we have the final breakthrough that gets us to the agreement. But the fact that we're meeting and talking is significant. The fact that we've narrowed the issues to a certain small set of issues is important. And the fact that we have some outside assistance from nonpartisan staff helping us is significant and helpful.
Do you have an indication that the public is paying attention? Is there any, and I realize the election is 2026, but is there any fallout at all? Or?
I think people think that the legislature is generally a big mess and they don't really like how the sausage is made. They would just like the sausage to be made. And kind of the ins and outs, the day-to-day of committee hearings and conference committees and legislative wrangling is not that interesting to the average person. It's very interesting to the average almanac viewer, but not very interesting to the average Minnesotan.
Thank you.
Justin Betty in the chat posted, I realize it's a different chamber, but any statement on the Senate vote to not remove Senator Mitchell?
I don't know anything about what's going on in the Senate.
All right.
Sorry, this is Caroline. Can I just ask one final
Yeah,
thing?
go ahead, Caroline.
You're projecting a lot of confidence here, Leader Hortman. Do you think that it will be this week, tomorrow, if not tomorrow, the end of the week?
Well, let me just say it this way. The legislative session is 18 weeks long. So we are in week 3 of conflict. If we have resolution this week, we will have 6 weeks of GOP leadership. And then we will have 9 weeks of shared governance. So every day that goes by is one less day of GOP governance potential. So my hope is that we'll have an agreement soon so that, they can take full advantage as they would like to of this moment in time where they are up 67, 66.
Okay, with that, we'll keep it brief and I don't see any other questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.